Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze, by Safaricom, the Youth Network.
Welcome to the Great Debaters Contest. We have pitched camp in Meru County and we continue our focus on the Sustainable Development Goals. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Yumbok. Today we have Kaaga girls going against Kibirichia boys, and the motion is the government's free primary education policy has been achieved in reference to SDG number 4. Mariam, do you think they can tackle this?
I definitely think they can, Austin. Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes.
Scratch a little deeper and realize that potential and energy is what Kenya has to unlock it. What is this free primary education you're talking about? Who is the person or who are the great minds behind the planting of the mustard seed that has grown into a mighty tree, spreading like a canopy in the country? The government's free primary education has been achieved. Stacy Murerwa Kaaga Girls High School. What do you think a government is? A government is a particular system or method of controlling a country. And the free primary education policy, according to Article 3 of the Kenyan Constitution, states that the primary education should be free and compulsory to every child in Kenya. Well, in 1963, when the KANU became the ruling party, it was committed to offering a minimum of 7 years free primary education to every child in Kenya, with main aim of fighting ignorance, diseases, and poverty in the country, and the belief that every Kenyan child has the right to primary basic education. Well, this has been greatly achieved, and I'm here to attest to that. According to the Kenya Democratic and Health Survey, in 1990, since 1963, there has been an expansion of learning institutions in the country. Let's look at this. In 1990, there were 14,864 primary schools established, and by 2001, there were 18,901 schools which already had been established, marking a 27.2% increase in the number of institutions in the country. So what other achievement are we waiting for? Isn't this a step towards the achievement of the free primary education policy established 54 years back? Moving on, there's a rise in the enrollment in schools since the introduction of the free primary education policy. Well, let's look at this. In 1974, the enrollment of Standard 1 students increased by 1 million above the estimated figure of 400,000. Let's move on. In 1998, 87% of both girls and boys in class 1 had been enrolled. Let's move on. In 2004, it increased from 5,392,319 to 6,314,726, marking a 78.4% increase in the enrollment. Isn't this impressive? This indicates that Kenya has taken an advantage of the free primary education, shows the impressive progress that Kenya is indeed increasing in the education levels, considering the introduction of the free primary education policy back in 1963 under the Article 3 of the Constitution, that every child has a right to free primary education. Well, Nelson Mandela once said that education is what makes the sons of the kings dine with the sons of the peasants. And I think we are achieving this, Kenya. My fellow citizens, this is being achieved, and many people, this is bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. Thanks.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes.
The government has fully implemented the free primary education. I stand before you to oppose this motion. First of all, although the government has introduced government programs to accord to the free primary education and even go to the extremes to chip in the system, a resounding success has not been met. 1, Basic Education Act of 2013 was implemented into a law. Yeah, it was free education, but still schools charge some fees. 2, poor primary schools performance. Okay, to pose a question to the panel and to the congregation, the parents, are your children at private school? The answer is a definite yes. Why? From the implementation of this act, there has been poor performance in public primary schools. Why? The enrollment of students have incredibly increased with constant number of teachers. The government has not yet met the standard population of teachers as relation to that of students. According to the Guardian online article on Friday, 24th January 2014, it indicated that Kenyan parents had waged a case against the Minister over school fees, which is not according to the law implemented in 2013. Donors have pulled out of this system of free primary education due to embezzlement of funds of the same. An example is the United Kingdom. The Dutch has also pulled the initiative of subsidizing the textbooks in the same way. Average class size have increased from 40 to 64 and even further to 100, hence corrupting the system. Although it is said as the free primary education, there are charges. The parents have the load of purchasing the uniforms. Many students in the school-going bracket are not yet enrolled in this free primary education, in reference to the fact that only 86% has been enrolled. To end, education is what remains after what you have read, you forget. Representing Kibirichia Boys, Eddie Minor.
Now it's time for rebuttals. May we have the second proposer take the stage? You have 3 minutes.
Well. Education is the only equalizer. The government free primary education policy has been achieved. This is actually in accordance with the SDG number 4, quality education. 1, there is reduction in cases of early marriages. I'd like you all to join me as I take you for a tour. Look at areas such as Kajiado, Turkana. Back in the 1990s, girls were married off at an early age just because education was so expensive for them to acquire back then. But what has the government gone ahead to do? They have provided this initiative, they have provided this free program of free primary education. People have been made aware of the importance of this free primary education, and what can we see now? The number of girls taken to school by parents has greatly increased. We can see the gap between the number of boys and girls taken to school by 1998 was just 87%. But what we have currently? In 2008-2009, the number increased to 94%. What do we all see? Secondly, the government has gone ahead to introduce the free Camel library services. I know that all of you right now are wondering, what are Camel library services? These are camels carrying books specifically made for the free education program and take them to children in far-flung schools. Take an example of Masalan. Take an example of the West Pokot. Take an example of the Wajir. These places are very far-flung. We do not have roads to take us there. But what has the government done? It has taken advantage of what these people have, the camels. It has taken advantage of what they have despite the fact that they are uneconomically stable. They have used this camel to their advantage. Camels are being used to take books for these people. Camels are being used to take other learning supplies to these people. And what do we want to see? We have seen that there's a great improvement in the enrollment of these people from such places. As my fellow proposer said, there's increase in the enrollment. What assurance do we have that the number of people enrolling in a school are the same number of people doing their Kenya Certificate of Primary Education? But the government has gone ahead to increase the facilities that we have so that the number of students enrolling in school is the same number or more of the number of pupils doing their Kenya Certificate Primary of the exam, the KCP examination. Come to think of it, by 1998, we only had 701 females joining school, and that same number of 701 sat for their last examination. The number of males was 804. What do we see? This is clearly pointing to the SDG number 5, gender equality. The gap is slowly bridging. And what do we want to see in the future? What will we have achieved? We are going to reduce the number of inequalities. And what is the SDG number 10 saying? Reduced inequality. If we all join up and agree that the government has greatly and greatly achieved free primary education, everything will have turned out.
Gentlemen, you have 3 minutes for your rebuttal.
I'm Michael from Kibirichia Boys High School. Okay, I've got a few questions first to ask my fellow proposers. My friends proposers. One question is that you say that the education was established back in the 1990s. Sorry to say this, but it was a political cookie by the presidents there before, Moi Kibaki, Moi, and the late Jomo Kenyatta. These were political cookies. Okay? It was established in 2013 as a law, but it was put in act in 2003 by the retired President Honorable Moi Kibaki. Further, it has almost crippled the education by, for one, delaying the input of the free primary education, and these funds that have pushed the schools so far so good are being delayed, leading to almost crippling the system. Secondly, you have said that infrastructure has been improved. Sorry to say this, but the infrastructure is the same as the 1990s, with our fellow people from the marginalized areas still writing on the ground, and those from the Turkana part still reading under trees. These loopholes have shown that clearly this is not free. This is for price. Further, it has shown that the policy has not been able to act at all. Why? With the reduced assessment and assignment, that's why our teachers here, our judges have confessed that their children are not in public schools because the quality has gone down. You can say it is very hard for one teacher to have a class ranging from 64 to 100. You cannot mark the assignments. You cannot give the assessments that are comprehensive. Why? Because the workload is too high for you to take. The loopholes continue when political pledges are based on education and are not fully implemented. The Kenya today, people in classrooms or at home, you have seen people doing harambes for them to create some funds to build a classroom. The classrooms are supposed to be built by the government, which has introduced this education. You cannot give education, then people are still reading under trees. So my friends, let us unite. Let us not sweep the dirt under the carpet, and let us say the truth. This has not been implemented. Thank you.
The proposition have been asked to validate their claim that child marriage has been eliminated, and the opposition have been asked if free education has not been achieved, then what more is there to do? We'll have them respond to those queries. Third proposer, you have 3 minutes.
The government free primary education policy has been achieved. An emphasis to stop truancy, an emphasis to promote literacy, and an emphasis to diminish illiteracy. Mary Wamoyo Kaaga girls. I'd like to make it clear that we didn't say that early marriages have ended. We have said they have reduced. Reduction and elimination are two different things. So they have been reduced. No, I have to study. Take me with you. These are words that were said from one narration by the Honorable Lesuda during a conference in the Bomas of Kenya of the leaders. This was a story of one girl that was getting married to one old man who was not in any connection related to her. But one thing that made this girl stronger and know that she needed to study, she was offered education. She's now literate. She knows she needs education. She needs to move on and continue reading. What am I driving to? The pre-primary policy education has brought about literacy. It has brought literacy to us as a whole in Kenya. One of the opposer asked that this policy started in 2003. The others are mere cookies. These are not mere cookies. It was started by KANU in 1963, as they stated it. And in 1969, they continued with their policy, which they encouraged, as they were saying what their government can do. What is this primary education policy that we are talking about? What is its aim? Its aim is achieving and providing education opportunities for the poor communities especially. As we can see right now in our Kenya, that we are so strong. The marginalized areas can now receive education like others. Some of us are here, we got the opportunities to go to our schools to continue with learning. Despite the challenges of going to their high schools, they are getting scholarships out there. So funding them and helping them to be educated in their primary schools, that is encouraging us and it's bringing our Kenya to move on. We have to understand and make it clear to us that what is this that the government is talking about? Free primary education. We are talking about education and not other things. Anything, if you're living in the Kenya I am living today, there is nothing called free. The government is doing its best. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll hear your response to the audience. You have 3 minutes.
Austin Ochieng from Kibirichia Boys, one of the opposers. First, I would like to answer a question posed by one of the audience, that in this system, we expect that even the lowly paid worker to take his or her child to school. Take, for example, if, for example, I'm paid 2,000 per month, and I want to take my child in a school where fees has been reintroduced against the policy that said that children in public school should not pay fee. So if, for example, I take my child to such a school and I am expected to pay fee, automatically the child will have to drop out. So I will say that in this system we expect that uniformity in all the workers in Kenya because this is a united country. On to my first point. My first point, I'll talk about teacher strike. You know, if someone said, the wise people said, if the deal is too good, think twice. For example, if this thing was termed as free as they say, then automatically the government will not be able to cater for all the teachers who will be teaching in those schools. And again, I will say that this thing has been able to contribute to the teacher strike, in which there was a collective bargaining agreement which was signed by the government that by the end of this year, by the end of the strike which occurred in Kenya last year, that by the end of last year, all the teachers in Kenya should be paid. Yet, until today, I read a newspaper saying that teachers are threatening to strike because the CBA, which was agreed by the government, has not been fulfilled. One of the proposers has said that that there was reintroduction of libraries in Kenya. Yet, I once visited Turkana County and made some children study under trees. So if you expect someone study under trees, how do you expect in that county to be libraries, yet the same child is studying under trees? So that's a question that you should internalize. My third point, there is diversity of funds for one's own benefit. In Kenya, we have some of the topmost leaders, and we have some of the leaders who are in the middle, and some people who are not leaders, but they are leaders of their own. Take, for example, as one of my proposers has said, that UN withdrew from the direct budget in Kenya, which was supposed to help boost the free primary education. Then it means in the government, some of the officials are taking this money which have been given by these organizations for their own self. Then again, in Kenya, For example, we have an organization like UNESCO and the UN organizations. They do provide relief food to the country. Yet, in some of the counties, like in Turkana counties and most of the marginalized counties, the pupils are supposed to pay food because so that they can be able to stay in the same schools. Yet, there is relief food which was been provided by the government. I rest my case.
We're ready for final submissions. Kaaga girls, you have a minute.
First of all, I'd like to correct my fellow opposer who just said that he went and found pupils in Turkana standing learning under trees. I spoke about Camel Library Services. These are not buildings. These are just mobile services. You also say that the government cannot offer free education. You said it's not totally free, right? If the government offers everything freely, who is going to suffer? The common mwananchi. Why is this so? The government will go out there, take loans. When it comes to our country, we are going to suffer the consequences. In what way? The taxes will go up. Who will suffer? The Kenyan who does not have income as compared to the rich people. From the Kenya Central Bureau of Statistics, we find that by 2003-2004, the World Bank had given Kenya a grant of 3.7 billion shillings, which was to fund education, which the government has gone ahead to do. I've never seen a person climbing a tree from the top. Neither have I seen a house being built from the top. We need a foundation, which the government is currently offering freely. Thank you.
Gentlemen, you have 1 minute as well.
Michael Mwanda again. I'm proud that they have supported us by saying it is not totally free. And thank you very much for saying that we are still paying for it as taxes. We are still paying for it as VAT. And we are still paying for it by buying school uniform, paying for food, which the government should provide. We also thank you for giving us the support by saying that if it becomes free, we will suffer. It is free as they argue, and we are suffering the consequences because our brothers and sisters in the coast province here go to school from morning up to lunchtime. And when it is lunchtime, the classes they are in are so hot that they have to go home. So please, the government, my fellow brothers, and sisters, when we get this education, let us go there and try to make it freer, or else let us make it more comfortable for our brothers and sisters so that they can achieve the education. Thank you very much.
Kibirichia, Edward. You did a good job opposing the motion, but your strength level was a little bit low, and so you started your team off on a low level instead of bolstering them. So the next time, let's work on your enthusiasm. Michael, you are a very good speaker, but in the beginning, you focused more on your notes than your ability to speak, because when you did the conclusion, you were outstanding. So let's get off the paper and just speak from the heart, because you're very good at it, okay? Austin Ochieng, yes, you're a strong speaker, but for all the two teams, again, cite your sources. Say the statistics and cite your sources. This was a common issue across the board.
To the girls, I love the journey that you took us through, how we have achieved this from the times of the 1960s all the way back. That was commendable, and I think the first and second speaker were really good at that. Nonetheless, anytime you want to cite sources and tell us that 1969, this is what we had and everything else, all these things, you got them from somewhere and they were recorded somewhere. You want to give us the source. And so for that, you're penalized. Yes, you had a very nice way of analysis, but you did not give us the sources. So you want to do that next time. Stacey, very good speaker. That statement that education is what makes the sons of kings stand with the poor, that was commendable for a start as well. Kelly, your work is cross-examination. You attack your opponents, and that tells us that you've been listening. So you did not do that, and for that you're penalized, but however, you're a good speaker. Mary, good role playing. You answered the question very well. Nonetheless, you ended up just emphasizing what they did, which is quite fair, but you want to also give your original submissions as well. All the best to the two teams.
Kibirichia boys, the judges awarded you 64%. Please give them a round of applause. Kaaga girls, the judges awarded you 71%. You're our winners for the debate.
Well, congratulations, ladies, and of course, a good job to these two teams. They have had a wonderful debate. Thank you to those of you in studio. Remember to give us your feedback and keep watching. We continue our focus on the SDGs. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyambok. Thank you for watching.
The Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze, by Safaricom, the Youth Network.